a better prediction doesn't necessarily mean better outcome. It's important to know what you're trying to predict. It's important to understand how the model works and where prediction can potentially go wrong. So these are important considerations for practitioners to when they consider if they should adopt AI-based predictive models.
Welcome to the Tippie Leads podcast. Stories from the University of Iowa's Tippie College of Business that will change the way you work and lead. I'm your host, Nick Westergaard. I teach at Tippie and lead our Story Lab program. This podcast provides another opportunity to share stories from Tippie with our community and beyond. Each season of Tippie Leads, we explore a grand challenge in today's changing world of work. This season, we're looking at artificial intelligence. In this episode, we're taking a forward-looking lens. Can AI help us predict the future? From business strategy to social networks, AI is uncovering patterns and trends that were invisible just a few years ago. We'll start with insights from Tippie's Kang Zhao, a leader in business analytics and data science. Then we'll hear from Tippie student Caroline Goshgarian, whose story on beginnings reminds us to reflect on the past, anticipate the future, and stay grounded in the present. Finally, we'll wrap up with a final Tip E just for you. Ready? Let's get started. Kang Zhao is the Senior Associate Dean and Leonard A. Hadley Professor in Business Analytics at the Tippie College of Business. During his time in the college, Zhao has served as department head and faculty director of the Master of Science in Business Analytics program. His current research focuses on data science, including the mining, predictive modeling, and simulation of social and business networks and social media. Kang is also currently on the editorial boards of the Journal of the Association for Information Science and Technology and Information and Management. Let's start with the basics. When you talk in your work about AI being used to predict the future, what does that really mean in practice?
Well, when it comes to predictive models, I think there are a lot of different approaches, right? There are a lot of things that you can predict based on data, based on what happened in the past. So in my research, my approach is really based on what I would call a network-based approach for prediction. So the basic idea is everything is somewhat connected to something else. So let's look at, for example, a social network. So individuals are connected with each other through all kinds of relationships, whether it's friendship, classmates, family, neighbors. And one important theory or foundation of social network ties is what we call homomorphy. The basic idea is individuals that are connected will have something in common, will be very similar in certain ways compared to two other individuals who are not connected. So now, with that of similarity between two individuals who are connected, can we leverage one person's behavior to predict another's behavior based on this type of similarity, whether it's similar type of political belief, similar type of lifestyle, or similar type of consumer behaviors. So that's what I'm trying to leverage in my research to try to predict what will happen in the future based on obviously what your social network neighbors have done in the past.
So your work has applied AI forecasting in some very different settings, from predicting box office hits to modeling stock prices. Anything in some of these very different settings that you've found that those examples have in common?
Yeah, I think it's amazing how predictable many of the things are, actually. Even when it comes to stock price, which is in general very difficult to predict, we can come up with a machine learning scheme and we can actually extract a lot of useful signals to predict stock movement of a particular company by looking at how that company's neighbors in the intercompany network behave. For example, if you have a neighbor in a supply chain network that is behaving really well, that signal would probably be very useful for a machine learning model to extract and try to predict your performance moving forward. For example, if your consumer is doing really well, they will buy more products from you. That means you will do well after your consumer's performance goes up. So that's the type of things we can extract out of what we use a graph neural network approach to do a better job predicting a company's future performance. And then when it comes to human behavior, yes, it's in a lot of cases, it's also highly predictable. If you think about what the recommender system is doing nowadays, if you turn on Netflix, if you open your Amazon.com app, all the recommendations are actually doing a pretty good job capturing what you want to do next. So human beings, on one hand, our behaviors follow certain patterns. On the other hand, in the age of social media, when everybody is being influenced by very similar sources, our behavior is also converging, right? If you think about nowadays, there are just a lot of viral phenomena, whether it's Labubu. I don't personally get it, but then when it becomes a social media phenomena, all the young people would get exposure to this, and their behavior would eventually converge under the same type of influence.
When looking at developing AI models for better prediction, why does that matter for business, whether in entertainment, finance, or digital platforms?
So that's a great question. So when it comes to the implications, I think there are something I'm really proud about, and there's also something I want people to be aware of. So the first part, obviously, if you can predict what's going to happen in the future, you can leverage that prediction for your benefits. The most obvious case is, for example, stock prediction. Mm-hmm. If I can predict the stock will go up with certain probability next day, I can change my investing strategy based on that prediction. If I can predict that this user is likely to buy this product, I can customize my recommendation engine so that I could present this product in front of the user when the user opens my app. So that, I think, the business application is obvious. On the other hand, there is also this caveat about prediction. First, a better prediction doesn't necessarily mean better outcome, because every prediction comes with a probability, right? And then there's also about when it comes to action, every action comes at a cost. So whoever has this prediction has to be very careful about the possible gain and the possible loss that this prediction may direct you to. For example, when it comes to investing in a stock, I can probably tell you this stock is likely to go up with this probability. With that, whenever you want, again, this is a common rule in stock market. Whenever you want better gain, the trade-off is often the risk, right? There's no silver bullet that you get higher gain without higher risk. So there's always the balance between risk and gain. So even though my model is telling you this stock is going up with this percent probability tomorrow, you still have to think about what kind of risk you are willing to accommodate. And also there's always transaction costs, right? By changing your portfolio on a daily basis, there's always a transaction cost associated with that. So that's something that I want people to be aware of. And there's also another interesting area when it comes to, for example, if I change my, for example, lineup, if I change my recommendation based on this prediction, will that really change people's behavior based on that? So right now, prediction is just one step. The final step is how to optimize the outcome for business. So with that prediction, I can increase your chance of changing the outcome, but it's not a guarantee. There's always the caveat about causality, right? Does changing this necessarily change people's behavior? We can predict there's a higher chance, but when it comes to what happens in reality, there's always a causality issue that we have to address.
It almost seems like as we develop better models, we need to develop better behavior to handle those models, like you're saying, in decision-making processes, whether you're a investor, a portfolio manager, in considering all of this new information, which we could easily tag as better information, but it, as you're saying, carries risks as well. So, what should the humans on the other side, or I guess outside of their computer, sitting there looking at these new models, be considering to use them effectively?
Well, yeah, I think there's always things that a predictive model cannot handle, even though many of the behaviors are highly predictable. I think there's always the humanity outside the predictive models. For example, I think one active research area when it comes to recommender system, which is essentially predicting people's behaviors when it comes to what kind of content or what kind of products they want to consume, is the diversity of recommendations, right? I mean, if you think about nowadays in social media, most of the recommendations are driven by the goal of engaging customers when it comes to clicks. The idea is just keep recommending things that you want to click, right? But there is a problem with that. Especially when it comes to news content. If we keep doing that, people will keep engaging with content that aligns with their existing views. So one important area that I want people to consider is when it comes to societal benefit, when it comes to the benefit of their individual users, it's important to consider something other than just keep people clicking, right? We, as a society, we need to keep several conversations. We need to keep different views available to our citizens. So when it comes to recommending news content, we should also, when it comes to optimizing the outcome, it shouldn't only be about clicks. It should also be about the diversity of viewpoints people are able to access from the platform.
That's a really good point, and it makes me think of what you said earlier about the recommendation engines on Amazon. They're largely pretty good, but the other side of that is we can end up in an increasingly focused lane of our own making, and we may miss useful divergent viewpoints.
Yes.
So, kind of pivoting off of that, as this episode comes out, it will be in the fourth quarter of this year when many organizations are looking ahead to the new year and planning for that. So if business leaders are listening, how might they think about applying predictive AI in a way that both drives growth, but also, to that last point, respects their users, their people?
That's a tough question. For business leaders, I think it's important to understand what you want to predict and what you want to optimize. There is always a business perspective, and there is always the humanity perspective to all the AI problems that we're dealing with. And when it comes to operationalizing AI models, there is always a question about what kind of data we need to incorporate, right? There's inherent bias in almost all the data we deal with. And it's important for all our business leaders to consider when they pull data to build predictive models, because that's the mainstream approach, is to leverage data to predict future. When you pull data from your past to build models that predict the future, it's really important to think about the type of inherent bias, whether it's data bias, whether it's sampling bias, whether it's bias associated with algorithms. It's important to consider all of those when you pull the data before you actually build the model.
That's so important, and I think really, really timely as well, given the time of year. It also makes me think about, all of this is something of a moving target as well, because the other factor is how fast AI is developing new models, new methodologies, and as someone that is doing research around this, which itself takes time to plan,
Very
execute.
challenging to keep track of what is going on nowadays.
So as you think about that, knowing that things could change instantly, how we think about some of this, what are you looking for down the road when it comes to kind of what you're watching with AI?
So what as a scholar, what I'm looking at right now is the cost of computational models versus the performance gains. So if you think about modern days AI, it's getting actually very expensive when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to, for example, power supplies. So companies are looking at nuclear power plants again to generate the electricity that could power those cloud computing infrastructures. So, again, technology moves in not linearly, right? So there's performance gains in every iteration, in every new model we're seeing nowadays. But then it's important as a society to look at the cost of those models before adopting it. It's important to do this iteration so that maybe at one point we can make another giant leap when it comes to performance. But to me, I think when it comes to adopting a specific model, it's very important to look at the cost as well, right? By adopting this new model, I can gain 5% performance gain, but that comes with 20 more power consumptions, 20% more carbon footprint. Is that still a model that I want to adopt? Or should I wait for the next giant leap that is also more power efficient, especially when measured with the performance gain? So that's something I'm looking at right now.
It's almost like, looking at the, beyond the hype of AI, there's the price of the compute. And are we going to back ourselves into something almost like fossil fuels from cars, but with all of these great AI answers that we're getting with a few clicks?
Yep. Every time you query ChatGPT, there's a lot of power that is being used to generate that answer.
Kang's insights help us look at the future. But what about the past and present? Next, we'll hear from Tippie student Caroline Goshgarian, whose story at our Fall 2024 Story Lab Showcase explores the theme of beginnings, reflecting on the past, anticipating what's ahead, and staying grounded in the present.
I hate beginnings. I think I've always been that way. For as much as I love music, I hate the beginning of Me and Your Mama by Childish Gambino, where the introduction is nearly 2 minutes long. Or even during my favorite Christmas classic, Elf, I find myself fast-forwarding past the swirly-whirly gumdrop forest until Buddy the Elf is already in New York. Believe there's a clear-cut reason for this as well. Clinically undiagnosed, self-diagnosed ADHD. For years, I have said that my mind works faster than my mouth, but in truth, I think my mind just works faster than the rest of the world. I can never stay on one topic for too long before jumping ships, and I'm constantly filled with anticipation. That said, I think it's important to note that for 10 years prior to university, I was a competitive dancer. Each year, my studio would put on a production where we would compete with a different ballet. It was announced my junior year of high school that we would be competing with Swan Lake. Ever since I was a little girl, I had dreamed of being a little swan. And I don't mean a physically small in size petite swan, I mean the role that you could dance. For example, you could dance the role of the prima, which is more commonly known as the black or white swan. You could be a part of the corps de ballet, which is the group of dancers who hold neither a principal or soloist role. Or you could be a little swan, a pas de quatre, a dance of 4 people. I was ecstatic when my teacher selected me to dance the role of a little swan because it was quite literally everything I had ever wanted. Though I digress, while I'm not fond of many beginnings, there was one I despised more than any other. I can hear it now, that pesky Tchaikovsky number 12 Allegro. the entrance of the Swan Court of Ballet. I loved Swan Lake, for the most part. It was just that I had dreamt of being a little swan for so long. It was the only part I wanted to dance and the only part I actually cared about. Unfortunately, I couldn't skip the whole first section of the dance, so that meant during each class, each rehearsal, 500 times a night, I'd be forced to dance with the Swan Court of Ballet from the beginning. I started to sense some animosity between this beginning and me. Every time I heard that opening note, I had a physical, visceral reaction to which I rolled my eyes. And I truly don't think there are enough words in the English dictionary to describe the antipathy I felt for this opening. It was intense. That was until my last performance. As I stood backstage alongside my peers, a buzz of excitement flowed through us. We ran through our pre-performance rituals to calm us down. The first consisted of us shaking each limb individually while counting down from 5. It looked a little something like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sure some of you know it. The second consisted of us rubbing our knuckles together, creating friction. And as we stood in a circle as a team, we delivered shocks of excitement to each other. After this, I was calm. I didn't have any strong emotions before stepping on stage. That's when I realized I had an issue. There was no detesting, no loathing, no hatred for this beginning. It felt strange. A wave of sadness hit me as I realized this was the end of the beginning. After this, there would be no more beginning for me to complain about, and there would be no more beginning for me to dance. I had taken it for granted. I was constantly consumed by what I wanted later on that I had missed what was right in front of me. I missed the chest-tightening feeling of your first steps on stage. I missed smiling alongside the girls I had grown up with for the past 10 years. And I had missed appreciating the beginning of the dance. If you were to ask me now my thoughts on Swan Lake, I'd still say that Little Swans was my favorite part by a landslide without a doubt. But I'd also say the beginning wasn't that bad. I was grateful to recognize this before my last performance. So it wasn't a moment of realizing what you had once it was already gone. I had realized what I had a second before it was gone. That said, as I followed behind a line of swans, we began to dance in the wings before the stage lights even hit our faces. And when I finally took the stage for the last time, I embraced every second of the dance with open arms, including the beginning. Thank you.
That was Caroline Goshgarian at our Fall 2024 Story Lab Showcase in downtown Iowa City. Caroline's story reminds us that as we look to the future, it's important to stay grounded in the present. Otherwise, you risk missing something special. Caroline is a double major in finance and accounting at Tippie and serves as a Story Lab peer mentor. You can watch her story along with the stories from other Tippie students, alumni, and faculty via the link in this week's show notes. Now let's go back to Kang Zhao one last time for a final tip E for you to remember in your work.
Pay attention to what you want to predict. Be aware of potential downfalls of predictive models, especially when our society is moving at such a fast pace. Because when the underlying data changes, your prediction will change as well. And then be careful about the behavior you want to adopt based on predictive models.
The predictive power of AI helps us understand trends, anticipate challenges, and even support human-centered initiatives. In our next episode, the Season 3 finale of Tippie Leads, we'll hear a special story from Tippie's AI expert, Patrick Fan, who shares a personal project he's working on with his son to promote teen mental health. This episode of Tippie Leads was written and produced by me, Nick Westergaard, with special thanks to Kang Zhao and Caroline Goshgarian. To learn more about our faculty guests, their research, and more, go to tippie.uiowa.edu/Tippie Leads. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or coworker, or better yet, subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. And if you're feeling generous, consider leaving us a rating or review to help others find the show. This is Nick Westergaard signing off. On behalf of everyone at Tippie, thanks for listening, and go Hawks!
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.